Hey team, it's Conrad Tracy, addiction coach from Melbourne, Australia. I wanted to talk to you today about a topic that I teach and get asked about all the time. And it's like, what do I do now that I'm not taking drugs and alcohol, right? So how do I actually socialize? How do I figure out who I am and what I really want and what brings me happiness and joy in this life? Okay. It's a really important question. And the first thing I think that's really imperative to lock down is your mindset shift. Okay. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about how to develop core friendships and keep yourself safe in friendships. I'm going to help you to reconnect to joy and hobbies and also help you to get outside of your comfort zone. And then I'm going to share a simple framework with you that you can use to kind of stress test how you're going with this and make sure that you're not just doing things for the sake of doing things. You're actually doing things that you love and enjoy. Okay. So stick with me for the next 10 or 15 minutes and hopefully you'll learn something that will really, really help your recovery. This stuff is so, so imperative. Now, mindset and perspective are so important. When I meet people, I actually met somebody this week and they said, oh, that's not me. I don't want to do this. I'm not into that stuff. And for me, right, that barrier, that block, I remember it. Okay. Like when I was in addiction, I was so close minded. Okay. I was like, I thought I knew everything about myself and what worked for me. And I was so wrong. Okay. Because there was a world of stuff out there that I hadn't tried. And there's still stuff out there that's going on that I need to go and explore. So if you're sitting there and you're hearing yourself say, I can't, okay, I don't do those things, I won't do that, or I won't try, or statements like that's not for me. Okay. So keeping a really, really closed mind is not going to serve you in this. So the first thing that you actually need to do is practice opening that up and go from a really, really closed perspective to more of a growth perspective. Okay. And the first thing that you can do to that is to say yes more often. It's a really simple tool. Now, I'm going to say that with caveats. I'm not going to say go and say yes to everyone because that's probably what got you in this trouble in the first place. But when you're, again, in a safe and secure framework, so you might be in a community like ours, or you might find another one that works for you. If you're surrounded by people that love you and that you trust and that you know that you're going to be safe with them and they ask you to do something, just say yes. Okay. It's amazing how many men I work with and women who get internal invitations. So their family will be like, hey, do you want to go and do this? Do you want to do that? And they're like, no, I'm just going to stay at home or do it without me. Okay. Remember that isolation is one of our worst triggers. Okay. If you're struggling with drugs and alcohol, the worst thing that you can do is isolate yourself. So you need to start saying yes and really, really start, just going, whether you feel like it or not. And that's the first step, really, just to break that mindset shift and to get into the activities. And again, I'll show you how to actually build a framework around this stuff. So the next thing that I want to talk about is finding one good friend. Now, I have this amazing friend, and he is one of my dearest friends. His name is Kyle. And I met him in okay? And I love this bloke. And I remember like we did everything together, okay? Because when I got out of rehab, I still had the same friends and drug dealers, right? People doing crime, people doing things that were adjacent to crime, right? I had some good friends, but they were kind of sick of me. So I just spent the last kind of few years hanging around with dead shits. And I didn't really have a social or a friendship group. And I knew that if I went back to my old one, I'd be in trouble. Okay. So all I want you to hear is this. You need just to find one solid person who doesn't drink or take drugs and build that bond with them. Okay. Like we used to go to meetings together and then we used to go out for breakfast. And that's how we started. And we just got to know one another. And we shared some big conversations because we were getting to know ourselves. Okay. We went through a lot together, a lot of ups and downs. And that's what real friendship is about. It's not about how many shots you can have or how many pills you did this with or how many bags you did together or how much shit that you talk together. It's about shared and lived experience. After we ventured out of breakfast, we got into social things. So we're like, okay, let's go to this men's group or let's go and try breath work, which was, like hadn't even started back then. And we just went on explorations together. Okay. And that friendship just saved my life during early recovery. I'll never be grateful enough for that. And after we did those things, then we started to socialize at events. Okay. So we used to go to festivals, we used to go do things that normal people do, and we kept each other accountable and we kept each other safe. Okay. We also traveled together. We went to Bali, we did some surf trips, and we had an amazing time. And we did it all drug and alcohol free. And some of the best times of my life. Now, the good news about this is like today I'm very happy and I'm healthy and I'm doing well in life. And so is Kyle. Okay. He lives, look, I won't say too much, but he lives overseas. He's got a very successful career. He is very healthy. He is very fit. He is very in tune with himself. He's a modern, integrated man. And I care deeply about him. So you've got to find your Kyle. Okay. And we did that for about 18 months, changed my life. Okay. So one person that you can connect with, just do it once a week. Okay. Now, the next thing is reconnecting to joy. Okay. You might see a couple of things behind me. Lego, I love Defenders, particularly the old ones. Basketball from when I was a kid. I was like a Spurs fan, Adidas. Right? There's some wellness stuff, lots of books and my journals, all of my marathon trophies, lacrosse trophies. They represent me today, but they also represent me as a kid. Okay. And one thing that I had to figure out when I came through this process was, what do I actually like doing? And I got some great guidance, which I'm going to give to you today, which is never underestimate the power of a good hobby, and also go back to what made you happy when you were a kid. Okay. So I did this exercise. I think it was with maybe with a psychologist, and he's like, tell me when you felt it, right? And like we did the whole eyes closed thing, da, 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 da. And I remember it was like my 8th birthday and my parents bought me this BMX bike. It was my first bike with pegs on it, right? Oh, I fucking love that bike. And I can still remember like the pedals, how they felt underneath my bare feet, right? And I remember riding up that road, and I just didn't get off it. Okay. So the adult version of that was going out to get a fixie and going out for rides and going on explorations and, doing that with friends. And then reconnecting to things like sport that I loved when I was a kid, basketball and the hip hop culture, the music, right? And going out and I guess, I was into going on adventures, right? So I used to go out and get lost, and which was a beautiful thing. Like let's get on trains and just go and see where they landed and then go spend the afternoon in places in my early recovery. So you've got to reconnect with joy. And like in our group at the moment, people are building models. They're in remote control car clubs. They're running, they're into Lego, they're into fishing, camping. They're running ultra marathons. So one of my clients went from meth to marathons and then to ultra marathons, changed his whole career because he did this work. And, they also spend a lot of time in the wellness suite, which I call that because it's like, it encompasses everything that we can do these days, like breath work, meditation, exercise, connection, groups. It's like there's so much available in 2025 for wellness. So start simple, figure out what you liked as a kid, go and attach yourself to that. And I can tell you this, creativity and flow are what you are after. If you can find something that you can be creative in and you can find that deep sense, you can get lost in it, that's solid gold. Okay. Now, you got to try new stuff. And if you've got a resistance to change, I don't blame you. So did I. Okay. So you might be thinking about doing something different. You might be watching this going, what's he talking about? But like, this sounds good. It's so much more than stopping the drink and the drugs. Okay. This is the deep work. It's like you've got to reconnect to what actually makes you happy because you've spent a lot of time doing something that brings you no joy. Now, there's dopamine in novelty. Okay. So if you go and try something new in a new space with a different person, that's like a triple shot of dopamine, which is really, really good for you and it's healthy. You've got to get outside of your comfort zones. We have an amazing training in our curriculum called How to Get Outside of Your Comfort Zones. And I think it outlines like 5 or 6 key areas that you can pick 4 or 5 things in each and go out and do them. And I've seen people go and do all of these things, and some of them are challenging. Okay. Because it's not just about getting outside of your comfort zones. It's about challenging your thoughts, your values, and your beliefs. And that's deep work if you want to dig into it. All right. Because I can guarantee you that some of those are holding you back. Now, I want to show you this framework. And it's really, really simple. And this is a practical tool that you can take away. Okay. So I'm just going to share my screen here and hopefully you can see that. And I am not into doing things for nothing. Okay. So you could sit here and listen to me talk and go, yeah, that sounds good, but like it could be a complete waste of time and I might not like it. All right. I'm not into that either. I want you to go out and I want you to get results and I want you to actually get some data. Okay. So I have a framework and it doesn't have a fancy name, but it's pretty simple, right? It's about choice, connection, experience, and ultimately enjoyment. So let me run you through this. And these, I guess, are like lily pads, all right? And if you work with me, you'll hear me talk about lily pads a lot. You'll hear me talk about rooms and doors. And recovery is a process of lily pads. Okay, you've got to go from one to the other, and you've got to rinse and repeat, right? So you've got to go back and do it over and over and over again. Now, let's say so you have your Kyle, okay? And Kyle's like, let's go and play pickleball, all right? Now, I already know I have an aversion to racket sports. I was just never good at them. I was like a champion lacrosse player, but I suck at tennis, okay? So if somebody said, let's go play tennis, I'd be like, nah, automatically. And then I would put this framework in place and go, Conrad, stop being so closed-minded. Let's run it. Okay. So Kyle's invited me to pickleball. My subconscious, who doesn't want to be shit at things and doesn't want to lose and doesn't want to look like he doesn't know what he's doing, says, nah, I'm not going to play pickleball. It sounds like a worse version of tennis. Okay. And then 2025, Conrad goes, okay, I'm going to make a choice. Now, this is the beautiful thing. This is what you regain when you stop taking drugs and alcohol is your choice. You can actually say yes or you can say no, right? And I'm going to say yes. And the reason I'm going to say yes is because Kyle is a safe friend. I felt a little bit of a natural aversion to say no, which means that there's some work for me to do there. And it's something that I've never done before. And secretly, I think it looks kind of cool. Now, what happens when you say yes is ultimately, right, the second part of this is actually going and doing the thing. Well, before you do that, right, you're interpersonal, okay? There's an invitation and there's a connection with a person who said, hey, do you want to come and do this with me? And you said, you know what, actually, thank you. I am going to choose life and say yes. All right. So you've created more of a bond. So that is very, very positive. All right. So you said yes to connection, right? And that is a positive choice. Connection, dopamine. And then the actual experience, okay? And this is where you've just got to go and you've got to do the thing. Okay, so you go play pickleball and moving through that, okay, and noticing how you engage with it is critical work, okay? Do you get frustrated? Do you give up? Do you persevere? Do you show resilience? Do you lean in and ask questions when you're not doing a great job? Do you sit on the sidelines? Are you right in the mix? It's incredibly important to be an active participant in things, right? So if you go into an experience and you find yourself sitting on the sidelines, you're probably going to end up being one of those people that screams from the sidelines, okay? So you've got to actively engage in the experience and let's be active here, right? Now, this is where the good thing is. I can sit here and I can tell you, go and do this, go and do that. You've got to get outside of your comfort zones. You've got to create choice, connection, experience, and enjoyment. But none of that is your will and none of that is your heart and none of that is an active choice for you, okay? And I'm not into that. I give people frameworks and I give people opportunities and I give people my experience of how I got to my end goal, okay? So the enjoyment part of this framework is where you develop self-efficacy and agency to figure out whether you actually liked doing something or not, and whether you're going to continue to do that and integrate it into your new identity. Okay. Now, enjoyment. Let's run through it. We said yes to Kyle. We've created connection by doing it. That felt really good. We went and we were active in the actual thing. Okay. So like I learned about pickleball. I might have done some research. I might have figured out the rules and asked a lot of questions while I was there, and I practiced humility and really got into it. And then I got to the end, and I'm going to be really blunt with you and honest with you, because I've done the pickleball. I didn't do it with Kyle. I did it with my friend Jared, who's another awesome human being, in Bali recently, and I didn't love it. Okay. So it was a bit of a cross for me. Okay. And the reason that I can say that and I can go, you know what, pickleball's not for me, is because I went through this process and I actually got off my ass and I tried it. Okay. The worst type of human beings will just go, it's not for me, and they'll do it up here. And that doesn't work. Okay. So if you're not prepared to keep an open mind, create connection that's safe, go and be actively participating in something, and then make up your own mind, I don't think you're doing the work. And I think that this is a great way to figure out what is and what isn't for you. Okay. Now, hopefully in 6 months, right, or 18 months, or however long it takes you for you to solidify your recovery, you might go out once a month, right? I'm not going to draw 18 lines, but like, let's just pretend that that's 18, right? And maybe 60 or 70% of them, okay, are things that actually motivate you and make you happy. Okay. So let's say in the year or in the 18 months, we did 5 things that we absolutely love. And they might be A, B, C, D, E, F. I think that's 6. And they go into your kit. Okay. So if you can think about your recovery as an exploration, I'm so happy that I'm clean and have a focused mind and a healthy body to go out and explore. And then you get to the end of it and go, you know what? I picked up these amazing friendships. I picked up all of these learnings. And these are 5 things that I really, really love. I did this during my active recovery. And the things that I found, a passion for drumming, right, that I had just kind of given up on. And I ended up taking that and getting back into pro gigs. I ran a marathon 2 years ago because I found a deep passion and a flow state in running, right? I love building Lego, and I love building systems, right? And I never thought that I was like a techie kind of guy. There's so many things that I drew out of what everybody else thinks is a negative experience, okay? Because I ran this framework. So it's available for you. I hope it helps. And really, if you get to the end of it and you just like find one thing that you love, right? Like I love camping, and you go out and do that every weekend instead of smashing bags and smashing booze, you'll be much happier and you'll be much more connected. And that's a great point, because if you can do any of this stuff in nature, it'll like 10x it in terms of the way that you feel and experience it. So guys, just remember, I'm going to do a recap. I'll try and read my little slides backwards. And it's high-tech YouTube, this stuff. Mindset shift, right? So stop saying, I can't, I won't, it's not for me. Like, nobody cares. And if you want to do that, you're just going to stay where you are, okay? You have to build a core friendship. Just one. If it's 2, great. And make sure they are safe, and make sure that you say yes, and try and reconnect to joy, right? So figure out what it is that you might start with, and don't beat yourself up if you don't love it at first, okay? Remember, you make the active choice, you go and get the connection, right? By choosing it, you actively engage in the experience, and then you decide, right, whether you enjoyed it or not. And if you did, put it in the kitty. And if you don't, then at least you gave it a shot, right? And you're not one of those people that is like, meh, 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 I don't love or enjoy doing anything. Guys, I hope that this has been helpful. Please, if you've gotten to the end of this video and you learned something, just give the video a like, hit the subscribe button, send it to a friend who might need to hear it. Okay. It'll really, really help me. And I just love the interactions. If you've got questions, drop them in the comments, and I will see you next Friday for another quick learning. And I hope it's helpful. Bye.